I'm here in the Barnes Cafe with Emma, and Emma did a brilliant evening with our old youth space 2 weeks ago, talking about hospitality and welcome. And she had so many gems of good ideas. I thought it'd be great for the whole church to hear some of her wisdom. So Emma, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
No, thanks for having me.
And so you were brought up with your parents with a real hospitality mindset. So just tell us something about your childhood and what your parents taught you.
Yeah, so my parents were part of a church plant. So they were very focused around welcoming people in and reaching out to people. And so from a very young age for us, hospitality was very much a part of our family life. It was modelled very early on. And I have very, very specific memories of driving to church and my mum giving the same little mini lecture she did every single week, which was the first 60 seconds after church are crucial for a newcomer to feel welcome. So during those 60 seconds, you need to sit quietly in the seat while I talk to people without interrupting me. So her entire focus was, during the benediction and the closing song, was scanning the church and trying to see who don't I know, who looks new, and she would make a beeline for them after church. And if no one spoke to them, they would just quietly slip out of the church and probably not come back.
So a 60-second rule, is that?
60-second rule. As we got a bit older, she would drag us with her. So if there was someone with young kids, we would be expected to entertain the new kids so that she could talk to the parent, without an excuse or an interruption. So, it was something that it just became a very natural kind of part of how we did church and the expectations. So even now, when church finishes, in my head, there's a very loose rule around, for the first 5 minutes, I don't talk to someone I already know. The friends can wait until after, and I'll seek out someone sitting near me who I've never met before or who looks uncomfortable, and I'll, go and talk to them.
And that must give you a lot of freedom, because you know that you've got time for friends coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps if you're in a church where everyone understands that, because friends don't get offended and friends will wait and they understand what you're doing and no one thinks they're being sort of, ignored. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so you had this instilled in you from early childhood. Then how did that impact when you and Cam married? What sort of patterns did you get into then? Yeah,
so when we got married, we knew we very intentionally wanted to make our home a place that was hospitable to others. And we were really, we had a real sort of heart and a passion for opening up our space and our time and our things to other people. So we got into this very intentional pattern where on Tuesday night we would have Taco Tuesday, mostly because it was kind of this crazy, ridiculous idea at the time that no one else was doing. So this is obviously before the Lego movie. And we would do things like, have ridiculous sombrero hats that we would pull out, and but really, really simple food so that we could do the same thing every week. It was really cheap and it was easy to do. And then we would just invite people we met at church that we didn't know or that we didn't know well, to come over and hang out on a Tuesday night for Taco Tuesday. We'd usually make sure there were two couples so that no one felt like they were being, in an interview situation. And it would just be this relaxed, messy, kind of silly environment where we could get to know people with a little bit more space than you have after church. And it helped for us that it was in the calendar. It was in the diary. We didn't book anything else on that time.
So every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday we would have this space open. And once or twice, there would be people there would be no one to invite, be a small week at church or things like that. But we just kept that kind of locked in. And
did you sometimes have the same people back second time, or was it always new people?
No, so what we tended to do was leave Taco Tuesday and Saturday night for new people. And then if we were inviting people back, we would do that around those days. So obviously this is before children with a very flexible social calendar. For us, there was a shift between the hospitality and the fellowship. So the hospitality was for the newcomers and the strangers, and the fellowship was more when we were building relationships with people and getting to know them better, and it was more of that repeat visit or connecting them. If we wanted to connect them with another couple at church, we would tend to do that around those times. So that was kind of a bit different to us. But
so Taco Tuesday, and then Saturday?
Taco Tuesday, and then Saturday we would also leave free. Saturday nights we would leave free. And they tended to be a lot more flexible. So after church, in that few minutes after church, sitting and talking to someone, I would make my focus. I'm not a very outgoing person. I'm very sort of socially awkward and shy, and talking about myself or performing or, that kind of loud and funny is just not me at all. So it was really lovely when I could focus intently on the other person and just listen and ask questions and sort of get a bit of a picture of who they were and what they were interested in and what their situation was and what their home life was. And so Saturday night dinners, we would structure around what we'd gathered about the person. So, for example, if it was a mum with young children who was talking about how she hadn't been able to get out for a good date night or go to a nice restaurant for months, then I would pull out all the fine china. We would go full 5-course, fine dining experience. We would go crazy over the top because I knew what she was craving was an opportunity to feel like a human again, to dress up and do something fancy. And so that's what we would make Saturday night. But if it was someone who lived alone, an older person, and they were, were craving family, then we would do something completely different. And that would be, I'd invite other couples over, someone with children ideally, and we'd do more of roast dinners and board games after dinner, and it'd just be a lot more relaxed and a lot more of a family feel, because that was what would make them feel loved and taken care of and heard. And so what we organised was all around making them feel seen, understand, and heard and acknowledged.
So it's about them, not about you looking good.
Totally. Yeah. Which actually, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing, because you don't have to worry about what your house looks like. You don't have to worry what your cooking is like. You don't have to worry, about all the little rules and the etiquette and all that type of thing, because it has nothing to do with you. It's all about the other person.
Yeah. It's loving the other person like Jesus told us to do.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
practically loving them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I found is that, for some people, they didn't want cooking. What they wanted was picnic rugs on the lounge room and ordering in Thai food and having takeout and playing games. They wanted something totally different.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly freeing when you realise it's not entertaining in a secular sense. It's not the Martha Stewart and the pretty decorations and the flowers.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with that. It's really just about inviting someone into your life and into your space and giving them your time. That's what people want. They just want to be seen and they want to be heard.
And that's so freeing, because actually so often we're worried about what will they think of me and have I done it good enough? But actually you're saying no, it's not about us at all. It's about them.
It's completely about them.
Yeah.
And honestly, the hundreds and hundreds of people we've had over in 3 different countries and something like, 16 different houses. I've never seen people care if I burnt the dinner, or if something was, late coming out of the oven, or if I'd left the bedroom door open and there were the piles of unironed laundry that they could see when they went down to the bathroom. Like that, no one cares about that. That's purely us. That's our...
Yeah, they just want to be loved. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this sounds like a big thing. So was this like a big ministry for you in church, or how did it work?
Yeah, so no, actually, it never actually was something I would have called my ministry, or Cam and I would never have called it our ministry as such. It was something we had a heart and a passion for, but within our church, it was something everyone was expected to do. So we didn't have a hospitality team. We didn't have fellowship teams. Occasionally we would have people who would get together and organise sort of one-off events or things like that, but hospitality was something that was expected of all the church. And it wasn't something that just the two of us did. It was repeated everywhere across the church in lots of different homes and families. Yeah.
Good. Everybody's on the same message. This is what we do as a church.
Yeah. And it did make it easier as well because everyone within the church understood that.
Yeah.
People were able to step in and help and assist. So if you're talking to someone after church and they knew you had young children in the children's ministry, they would go and collect your children for you to free up the leaders to pack up the room and bring them back, so you didn't have to break that conversation. Or they would go and get the tea and coffee and bring it over to you, so that, again, you didn't have to break that conversation to go and get the newcomer a drink. It was just, it's different when the church is working as a team to the one goal. Everyone can then find their little place and they can find their spot in that. So if the idea of approaching a stranger is genuinely terrifying for you, that's okay. There are still ways you can be hospitable. There are still things that you can step into and that you can help and assist with that make that easy. You've just got to be a bit creative and a bit flexible and ask people, what can I do to help you while you're doing that?
That's brilliant, yeah. So for anybody who's listening and thinking, oh, maybe I'd like to do, be a bit more hospitable, what's your top tip?
My top tip is invite people into what you're already doing. Our schedule, as much as we try to keep it simple, does not allow for a regular Tuesday and a regular Saturday anymore. But what we can do is invite people to participate in where we're at and what we're doing. So if we're having a barbecue in the backyard with the kids, because that's what they feel like this week, we'll invite people to that. Or if we're our regular games, family games night, we might invite people to join in with that. So we kind of, it's a little bit backwards to how we used to do it. And we used to sort of completely design evenings and events. This time, all we're doing is saying, this is what we've got on. Come and we'd love to have you be a part of our time, a part of our home, a part of our family. And so I would say that's my top tip. Don't try to create events and do all of that type of thing if that sort of seems a bit intimidating. But just take what you're already doing and just invite someone to participate.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Emma, this is just pure gold. What a delight. Thank you so much for opening your heart. And I think we've got a lot to learn from you.
Oh,
thank you. Thanks for talking.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.